नमो नमस्ते गुरवे महात्मने विमुक्तसंगाय सदुत्तमाय नित्याद्वयानन्दरसस्वरूपिणे भूम्ने सदा पारदयाम्बुधाम्ने नमस्ते नमस्ते विभो विश्वमूर्ते नमस्ते नमस्ते चिदानन्दमूर्ते नमस्ते नमस्ते तपोयोगगम्य नमस्ते नमस्ते श्रुतिज्ञानगम्य नमस्ते नमस्ते तपोयोगगम्य नमस्ते नमस्ते श्रुतिज्ञानगम्य स्वराज्य साम्राज्य विभूतिरेषा भवत्कृपा श्रीमहिमप्रसादात् प्राप्ता मया श्रीगुरवे महात्मने नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमस्तस्मै सदैकस्मै कस्मै चिन्महसे नमः यदेतद्विश्वरूपेण राजते गुरुराजते यदेतद्विश्वरूपेण राजते गुरुराजते हरि तत्सत् जय गुरु. So this is going to be the last lecture as such. After that Swamiji has the concluding lecture only. So all these 10 days I think all of you have been floating in devotion and knowledge also. That is what happens. From morning till evening, you are getting so much of satsanga, so much of association with Satpurushas, as well as the scriptures, which perhaps we do not get otherwise. And we have been floating in this exposure. Srimad Bhagavatam says in the beginning itself, in the first skanda, second chapter, that we go to the Punya Tirthas, the places of pilgrimages, where we happen to meet some Mahapurushas, some knowers, some saints. And by the association with the saints, we develop fondness for the words of truth, words about the Lord. And as we develop the fondness for the Lord, those Harikatha, or the Lord's word, Lord's description, His exploits, everything as it is constantly repeated in the mind, we constantly interact with them. That is actually keeping the Lord within our mind, within us, keeping the Lord alive within our mind. So, remaining in our mind, the Lord washes off all the Abhadrani. What is Abhadrani? This Bhadram is a great word. Anything auspicious is called Bhadram. To speak the truth, the real Bhadram is the soul, the Atma or the Brahman, which is same as the Atma, the ultimate truth, where there is no division at all, no Bheda Buddhi, no division at all. The last division we have is the division between subject and object. That is, I am seeing the world, or I am as a knower knowing the truth. There are three divisions there, the knower, the knowledge, and the knowing process. When all these divisions are also gone, that is the real Bhadram. But whatever we hear, whatever we receive, if it helps us to go near to that Abheda Darshanam, near to that unfragmented vision. All our vision is generally fragmented. It takes us towards the unfragmented vision. That is called the Bhadram. This word comes repeatedly in the Upanishads, in the Shanti mantras, also in the Vedas. Ano Bhadraha Kratavo Yantu Vishwataha. We pray that let all the auspicious inputs come from all sides, they enter us. Ano Bhadraha Kratavo Yantu Vishwataha. Let from all sides of the universe, from all directions, the auspicious things enter our mind, enter our within. Truly speaking, we pray that. But really the auspicious things, they don't have to come from outside. They have to be generated within. As long as we are not able to generate the auspicious thoughts, the auspicious vision within, coming from outside, they will not be able to give us the touch of auspiciousness. So finally, this Bhadram we have to remember always. And whenever our behavior, our thoughts get polluted with divisional feeling that this person I like, this person I don't like, I don't want to see him. That day he did something, I am not able to forget. Throughout the day we are keeping all the inauspicious thoughts within, all that is corrupted, polluted with the Bheda Buddhi. Until all those are taken away, the Bhadram does not appear in us. Bhagavatam says, Shushushoho Shraddadhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchihi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha Punya Tirtha Nishevanat Shinvatam Swakatha Krishnaha Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantastho Hyavadrani Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam, who is the friend of all of us, remaining within us. Vidhunoti, he washes off all the abhadras from within. That is how the words of the Lord, as we hear, and we go on churning them inside, they remove all the inauspiciousness, all the Bheda Buddhi, all the differential notions, likes and dislikes from within our mind. Bhagavatam gives a sequence of how one gets to the ultimate level. The next verse says, Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyu uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishthiki. He says that when this abhadra, all the inauspicious thoughts, they go by repeated rumination on the bhakti, then we develop naishthiki bhakti towards the Lord. This naishthiki bhakti, that means one-pointed devotion towards the Lord we generate. It should come. Tada rajastamo bhavaha kamalobhadayascha ye cheta etairanabidham sthitam sattve prasidati. He says that then that all the kama, lobha, all those polluting thoughts, those arise from the rajoguna and tamoguna, they are not able to touch us anymore. They are not able to influence or affect us anymore. And the mind remains steady on the Satwaguna, which immediately comes with the prasannata. The Satwaguna has the prasada guna with it. So we remain in prasada with the arousal of the Satwaguna. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. He says, when we remain with this prasanna chitta, when the mind remains placid with the touch of Bhagavad Bhakti, the devotion towards the Lord, then we start getting the knowledge of the truth. We start getting liberated from all the bondage which the gunas generate. We start reveling in the freedom. Then what happens? The last step, he says, Vidyate hridaya granthihi chidyante sarva samshayaha shiyante chasya karmani drishta evatmanishvare. He says, when we see the Lord within our own Atma, drishta eva atmani ishvare, when we see the Lord in our Atma itself, then what happens? Three things happen. Vidyate hridaya granthihi, chidyante sarva samshayaha, shiyante chasya karmani. These are the three results, the ultimate results of spirituality. Hridaya granthihi, well, it means the knot in our heart. We can call it ego, but it is coming from desires. We can call it desires, we can call it ego. All the knots of our heart are broken. The knots which always make us constricted, which always makes our mind, looking for what we like, we cling to that. We start hating what we dislike. All those things are coming from desires. And which is mine and which is others. We always have a preference towards what we are and always have a differential opinion towards others. All those things, those knots of the heart, they get broken. That is the first result. This knot of the heart getting broken means we attain an infinitude. Normally we think we are constricted, we are small, we are limited by the body-mind personality. We are always missing, we are suffering from insufficiency, we are suffering from lack of contentment. Always that goes on. So breaking the knots of the heart means we attain an infinitude where we no longer suffer from any insufficiency at all. We feel always sufficient, we feel fulfilled, we feel contented. Chidyante sarva samshayaha. The first one is an emotional knot. Vidyate hridaya granthi. The second one is an intelligential knot. That is all the doubts created by our intelligence. All the doubts created by our intelligence, they go, they leave us. We become doubtless. We become free of our all enquiry. And the last is kshiyante chasya karmani. He does not have any more work. Does he not work? Yes, he does. He does much more than the others. He does 10 times the others. But even then, he doesn't have any karma at all. That means that he does not have the kartritva bodha and bhoktritva bodha. That I am doing this, I am doing that. And by doing this, I will become happy. By getting this, I will become happy. This kartri bhoktri bhava, he gets freed of. These are the three benefits he finally gets. Now, I have a question. That Srimad Bhagavata is given in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shlokas, giving the whole sequence from coming to a Punya Tirtha, to a place of pilgrimage, and getting in the association of the wise and the wisdom scriptures. From there, how we get liberated. In these 5 shlokas, it is completely described. But I have a question, that does it happen to us? This is the 12th Srimad Bhagavata Tattva Samiksha Satram. And this Naimisharanyam is more than a pilgrimage. For 10 days, here constantly, morning to evening, Bhagavata Tattva Katha is going on. We have been taking bath in this Ganges from morning till evening. But after 10 days, what happens? Thereafter, when we get back, do we get all these sequential developments, what they have said? Do the Abhadra visions, the Abhadra thoughts leave our mind? Are we able to get rid of the blaming tendencies, the egoistic tendencies, the desire for small things, holding on, clinging on to small things, which they have said, which should come from the devotion, from the Harikatha Shravana at the beginning? Do we have it? We have to question ourselves that why don't we have it? 12 years have passed and many of us must be listening to all these years. How far we have gone, and throughout the year, how we are living our life. Has our mind become auspicious? Has it become Bhadra? We have to question. Naturally, when we inquire and when we look within, we find that it has not happened. Then we have to question that why it has not happened. What is the reason that it has not happened? That means whatever we are taking from the Punya Tirtha, this Naimisharanyam, we are not able to preserve it. There is definitely something wrong with the retentivity with us. The Satyadhriti. Satyadhriti means the power to retain whatever truth we hear. If that we are not able to do, then what is the benefit of it? If it is only benefit for 10 days, we revel the talks and we come and we revel our association, and then the world remains the same, the life remains the same, the days remain the same, then what is the benefit? Should we not question? So, how to increase this retentivity? How to make these benefits permanent? That is the main problem. In Yoga Vasishtha, Vasishtha Deva points out that it is because of lack of Vichara that we are not able to retain anything. Whatever we hear, whatever we read, unless the Vichara goes on constantly, we will not be able to retain. Because the world, by its very nature, it will overwhelm us. It will come with all its delusoriness, all its delusions, and that will take us away again from the Bhadram exposure, what we have got in Naimisharanyam. Yoga Vasishtha says, Vichara tikshnatam dhih pashyati parampadam dirgha samsara rogasya vicharo hi mahaushadham. He says that of this ancient disease called samsara, our samsara means the worldliness. World, there is nothing wrong. The world will remain as it is. When somebody becomes a knower, the world doesn't change for him. The world remains as it is. The change all takes place in our mind. The change takes place in the removal of the worldliness. Samsara means the worldliness. This ancient disease called samsara, dirgha samsara rogasya, vicharo hi mahaushadham. Vichara is the great medicine for that. What happens by vichara? Vichara tikshnatam dhih pashyati parampadam. What happens by Vichara is that constantly interacting with this truth, what is permanent, what is impermanent, what is transient, by holding on to what I will attain the eternal placidity or peace, by holding on to what I will again be affected by the good and bad, by the evil and the beneficial things. That constant vichara done in our buddhi, in our intelligence, by that what happens is that the buddhi undergoes a transformation. Our intelligence undergoes a transformation. It is this knowledge, and the knowledge practice is not that we come to know that this is the truth, this is what the Atma is, or this is what the Brahman is. The entire knowledge pursuit is to constantly make the mind and the intelligence interact with the truth. Whenever we are interacting with anything, we receive the property of that. Suppose a ball is moving, another ball is standing. When this ball hits the other ball, the steady ball starts moving. The energy from the moving ball goes over to the standing ball. There is an exchange taking place. It is a gross exchange that we are seeing. Similarly, there is always an exchange taking place, much more important. Although it is subtle, but it is much more important than the gross exchanges which is taking place within us. Whatever the mind is given to interact with, the mind accrues, the mind absorbs the qualities from which it is interacting with. Suppose you can easily find out also, when you stay with a peaceful person, with a saint or with a peaceful person, you will find automatically peace dawns in our mind. And when we are staying with somebody who is very agitated, very disturbed, you will find automatically there is an agitation dawning in our mind. How does it happen? This must be an experience of everybody. How does it happen? It automatically, we get influenced by the ambience we are in. Similarly, whenever we are in the world, we are interacting with the likes and dislikes. Right from the childhood, we are interacting with what I like, what I dislike. As a small child, I would always prefer to play something. Maybe I like the doll. Now, when the doll is taken away, I start crying. That means I like the doll, I want it. If I don't get it, I cry. There is always whatever I like, if I get, I am happy. Whatever I dislike, if I get, I am unhappy. We are always unhappy in facing what we dislike or in losing what we like. That goes on forever. So, this constantly interacting, the mind is interacting with this divided world of likes and dislikes, preference and prejudice, ishta and ishta. It is going on, it is always getting affected by that. It is influenced by this world. By that, what we are gaining is a fragmented mind. This I like, this I dislike. So the whole world is fragmented. And constantly interacting with that, with the likes and dislikes, our mind is getting fragmented. It is always thinking in terms of small fragmented things. This I like, this I don't like, etc. Now, if the same mind is given to interact with a soul or with the Atma or the Brahman, which is all-pervading, infinite, which never gets affected by anything at all, which reveals the good, reveals the bad also, never getting affected by it, which is like the sun. When the sun reveals the garbage, does it smell? The sunlight does not smell. The sunlight does not get affected. When it reveals the rose, does it become fragrant? Sunlight only reveals the rose as well as the garbage. Its duty is only to reveal. Like that, the Atma is only revealing everything. The more and more through the Shastras, through the satsangs, through our pilgrimages, we interact with this transcendental truth, which we ourselves are, which is our real identity, which is our Atma. As we go on interacting with it, we slowly accrue the qualities of this Atma. As we interacting with the likes and dislikes, we develop fragmentation of the mind. By interacting with the uniform, unaffected Atma, the mind starts becoming uniform, unaffected, all-pervading. So, even if this soul or a Brahman had not existed, suppose it was a myth, even then this knowledge pursuit would have given us this mindset. That mind would have become like the Atma as we are discussing, or the Brahman. It would have already generated, it would have accrued all the qualities of this, of the Atma or the Brahman. So the knowledge pursuit is not really to know what is the Atma or what is the Brahman, but it is to constantly make the buddhi interact with the concept of the Atma, concept of the soul, the concept of the Brahman, and by that the buddhi undergoes a transformation. It becomes subtle, uniform, unified. It gets a comprehensive vision of the truth. So it is a transformation of the buddhi that takes place. So that is why he said, Vicharat tikshnatam dhihi pashyati parampadam. This constant vichara, the process of vichara, the constantly understanding, ruminating, contemplating on the truth, by that the buddhi finally sees or realizes the parampadam, the truth, the ultimate truth, the real Atma, which is infinite, which is one and beyond one, transcendental, which is the same as the Brahman. Now, this is where they have shown that this vichara we have to continue. Now, what is this roga they are calling? That samsara dirgha rogasya. What is this roga? What is this samsara roga? That when we look into it, we find that from childhood, we are slave to the external world. Whatever we like, if we get, we are happy. The moment the situation changes, we are immediately agitated. Suppose somebody praises me, then we get elated. If he abuses me, immediately we get agitated or depressed, and we start abusing him also. That means immediately we lose our self-seatedness. Suppose somebody is abusing me wrongly also. It is not true of me. Maybe out of some misunderstanding, he is abusing us wrongly. But that immediately upsets our mind. We get agitated, we get upset about it. That means the peace of our mind, that is the peace of our mind is getting disturbed by whatever is happening outside. That is why we say that we are slave to the circumstances. We are slave to the objects and the objective situations. The world has full control over us. Now, in that world, we have to become unaffected. We have to become master of the world. How can we become that? Now, if we look into it, we will understand that this affectation is not because of the world, but it has to do with our mind. By treating our mind, we can easily remain unaffected. That getting something which I like, I get elated, and getting something which I dislike, I get agitated. It depends on my likes and dislikes. If we prepare our mind, if we make our mind ready to accept both, then whatever the situation, we will not get affected at all. Our Swamiji always gives an example that suppose somebody has lost his relatives, somebody has lost his property, lost his job, lost his wealth, everything. And he is standing on the street, absolutely depressed, dejected, thinking of committing suicide. Now another person who has taken up sannyasa, he has willfully renounced his job, renounced his property, renounced his building, renounced his relatives. He is also standing alone on the street, and he is happiest in that moment. Where lies the difference? Externally, both are same. The two persons, external situation, both are same. There is no difference at all. In the first case, it has happened providentially, but he is not ready to accept whatever has happened. He is not ready to accept the situation. In the other case, he has deliberately opted for the situation. So he is happy when that situation has come. Now, if the first person, he could not have avoided the situation, it has providentially come. He, in any case, will have to withstand the situation. But if he prepares his mind with the readiness that I will accept what is there, I have lost everything, and if I want, I can again work for it, again try to get back everything. But readily accept the situation which has providentially come, then immediately the stress, the tension, the pressure, the agitation, the affectation he is suffering from, immediately it will go. Will it not? It will immediately go. So what do we have to do there? We have only to make our mind ready to accept. That's all. The situation has happened providentially. In any case, we have to accept it. But our mind does not accept. So it has nothing to do with the world at all. It is the non-acceptance of the mind which is creating all the problem. So this, how do we have it? This is what they are saying by surrender in the Bhagavata Shastra. What they are saying. This is called surrender. This is called samatva. This is called knowledge also. This is called desirelessness. Desirelessness means what? I will not have desire for anything. That means whatever comes, I will accept. Surrender means what? Whatever gives, it comes, it is given by the Lord. So I have to accept and I will accept also. That is the surrender. Samatva also, whatever comes, we will accept that. So everywhere this is the same. Actually, in fact, the reality is the same. Whether we approach through knowledge or through samatva buddhi or through surrender, it is the same thing. But we are not practicing it. That is the main problem. That is why the benefit we obtain from the punya tirtha naimisharanyam is not staying with us. That is what in Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna said that, "Oh Krishna, you have discussed this samatva yoga so well because you are seated in that samatva yoga. But my mind is absolutely restless. I am not able to grasp the depth of it. Whatever you have taught, I am not able to realize the depth of it." Then what did Krishna say? He says that yes, it is very true. The mind's very nature is restless. So it will be restless, but that is not the ultimate word. It has to be made restful. How? By Abhyasa tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. He has clearly pointed out that what do we have to practice to retain anything we get from the discussion on truth, from satsanga, from the pilgrimages, whatever we get, how do we preserve it? We have to preserve it through Abhyasa and Vairagya. What is this Abhyasa? Abhyasa means constantly trying to get back to our real anchor, our real identity, that the uniform, universal soul, somehow getting connected to our inmost self. Abhyasa could be meditation, Abhyasa could be reading the Shastras, Abhyasa could be listening to the lectures whenever possible, Abhyasa could be whenever no reading is there, no lecture is there, at least in thought, whenever the fragmentation, smallness is coming in, to deal with it by thinking of our real identity, thinking of the permanent soul, thinking of the permanent truth, unchanging truth. Similarly, on the other hand, Vairagya also has to be practiced. What is the Vairagya? As we are clinging to what we like and hating what we dislike, this cord of clinging and cord of hatred, they have to be loosened. Vairagya means viraga. Viraga means, raga means color actually. It has come from color. That means we are not seeing the world as it is. We are always applying a color to the world, color of likes and dislikes, color of me and mine. If it is my son, we try to defend his defects also. If it is other son, we are out to condemn it. Why? Because of the color of me and mine applied to the sun. So we are not able to see the world as it is. We are not able to see ourselves also as we are. We are always applying this color and seeing. In our own case, when we have done something wrong, we try to defend it by even telling lies, because of the color of me applied there. If it is others, somebody else, we are out to blame him. Even if it is not his fault, we will try to put the blame on him and hate him or condemn him. That is because of the color of he is somebody else, not me. So the whole world, always we are applying this color of me and mine and the corresponding color of likes and dislikes. So whenever we are clinging to what we like and what is mine, we have to remember this word Vairagya and try to loosen that cord which is keeping us fixed to what we like, which is always as if with a rigid rod we are bound to that. The rigidity of the rod has to be lessened. As that rod becomes looser and looser, that is the Vairagya. That as earlier we were getting too much affected by whatever we are clinging and whatever we are hating. As these cords become loose, we don't get that much affected by anything at all. So we can always judge, looking at our mind, that are we getting affected as we were getting affected earlier or not? If with age, as we grow, we are getting more and more affected, then definitely we are going the wrong way. We are not proceeding towards the goal. And if looking at our mind, we find that earlier we used to get very affected by all these things, now I can take everything without getting much affected, then definitely we are proceeding towards the goal. So this Abhyasa and Vairagya has to be constantly there. Now this Abhyasa and Vairagya, here always we have to, the main factor which is working in us is the remembrance of the truth, which comes from Viveka Buddhi. We call it Viveka Buddhi. That Buddhi, normally we have Vishaya Buddhi, which is always very clever in finding out by which we will gain, by which we will lose in a temporary manner. That where we will gain more money, where we will gain more property, how we can prevent the loss, how we can get some praise, how we can get reputation. All these things our mind is, our intelligence is working. But there is another aspect of the intelligence which always keeps us anchored to our inmost self, which always tells us what is taking me to the auspicious goal and what will not take me to the auspicious goal. In our Shastras, it is called Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas is whatever is immediately pleasurable, but which takes us away from the auspicious goal. And Shreyas is the ultimate auspicious goal, which may not be immediately pleasurable, but which will finally take us to the auspicious goal. This Viveka Buddhi is the aspect of the Buddhi which always tells us where lies the auspiciousness, where lies this Bhadram. It goes on telling us always. Now this Viveka Buddhi, naturally the question will be that how this Viveka Buddhi will be generated? How will it be there? Naturally, the Viveka Buddhi generates from satsanga, from reading the scriptures it generates. But as an Abhyasa, to keep it always with us, we find it difficult how to get rid of the difficulty, how to have that Viveka Buddhi always alive in us, always awake in us. That is where both Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, they show the path with a three-guna model. They call it Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, where they explain actually these three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, they are everywhere in nature. In our scriptures, the whole nature is a combination of these three. But when it comes to the sadhana, in nature we are not interested in. Nature functions without any ego. It's a natural way of, it goes on active, remaining active in its own manner. There, the Satwaguna means the revelation. Without the revelation, we would not have known any existence. The Rajoguna means activity. Without Rajoguna, there would not be any creation at all, because even the minutest creation means activity, action. And the Tamoguna means inertia there, inertia and cover up, dissolution as well as inertia. Without inertia also, nothing would have been remaining. Even if a small particle also, it has to remain for a fraction of a second to become existent, to be visible, to be identifiable. So these three gunas are always there in nature working. That we are not concerned about. But these three gunas, as they act in our nature, that if we can understand, then that will help our sadhana greatly. That is what Bhagavad Gita does in 14th chapter and 18th chapter together. And that is what Bhagavatam has also discussed in 11th skandha, 25th chapter in detail. So there, Bhagavad Gita points out that it is not just the three gunas, but we have to know how these three gunas bind us. Because it is the bondage which we have to know and the bondage which we have to remove. Liberation comes from removal of the bondages. Now, which bondage comes from where and by what we can remove those bondages? That is the most important. Now, Satwaguna is that which always reveals. So, Satwaguna is light and knowledge. Rajoguna is always, which is related to action, but fragmented vision of the world. Action motivated by desire. Desire motivated action. And Tamoguna is always giving us ignorance, keeping us in ignorance, and also inertia. Now, this Tamoguna has got two aspects of binding us. One is the inertial element, that means alasya, nidra, etc. Another is covering up the truth, covering up knowledge. Now, the inertial element has to be tackled by Rajoguna, because Rajoguna is the opposite of the inertia. It makes us active. And on the other hand, the covering of the knowledge taking place in our mind by the Tamoguna has to be tackled by cultivation of the Satwaguna, because Satwaguna means knowledge. So we have to cultivate the Satwaguna, and with the Satwaguna we have to treat the Rajoguna also, because the Rajoguna is always fragmenting our vision. It is always involving us in desire motivated activity. So whatever actions are motivated by the Rajoguna, they are ending up in either the fulfillment of desire or non-fulfillment of desire. So elation and depression and affectation. So there will be sukha, there will be dukkha also. There will be agitation, there will be constriction. There will be a very narrow view of the world. Whatever I like, I will see only that. Suppose somebody I dislike, then I will not see his good qualities also. He may have many good qualities, but that will not come to our mind at all. So, we have to work on this guna aspect of our personality. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, they clearly say that how these gunas are binding. In the 14th chapter, 5th verse, it's saying, Sattvam rajas tamaiti gunah prakriti sambhavaha nibadnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. Dehe avyayam dehinam nibadnanti. So these three gunas are from the Prakriti, they are generated, they are natural, they are there everywhere. But all of them are binding the Atma, the Dehi, our I, to the Deha, to the body. Which Atma? Avyayam. Normally, if we identify the Atma only with the body, it is not Avyayam. It is always changing. With our body, it is changing. That is what the normal I sense we have. We are always thinking that I am changing with the body, I am changing with the mind. When the mind is suffering, I am suffering. When the mind is happy, I am happy. So the Atma is always undergoing changes with the body. But what they are saying is the real Atma or real identity is unchanging, unaffected. That is why they said it is Avyayam. So truly it is Avyayam, it is unchanging, but always deluded by the association with the body-mind personality, we are thinking that it is undergoing changes. So by that delusion only it is causing bondage also. I will give an example. You can see whether, here I don't have anything to show, but try to understand whether it gives you some clarity. Suppose there is sunlight coming in from the top, the parallel rays, sunlight coming in. Now here we put a small mirror and which will reflect the light coming from the top. If we turn the mirror a little, then will not there be a reflected beam coming from the mirror? And with that beam we can see the world, we can see various things with that reflected beam. This reflected beam will be depending on the nature of the mirror also. Suppose the mirror is wavy, then it will be having different. If the mirror is red, the reflected beam will become red. If the mirror is blue, it will be blue. If the mirror is concave, then it will go in a different manner. If it is convex, it will show the world in a different manner. So, how the world is seen through the reflected beam will depend on the property of the mirror. Are you able to follow? So, now there could be infinite number of mirrors, all of different shape, different light, different color we can have, and if we turn in different angles, all of them will show by their reflected beam, the world will be seen by them. Now the main problem comes is that if the mirror starts thinking that the beam is originating from me, the reflected beam is originating from me, the source of the reflected beam is the mirror. There comes the problem. Is the source of the reflected beam the mirror, or source is the original light which is coming from the top? The original light, if that light is not there, the mirror will not be able to reflect anything at all. But being the mirror, it is always thinking that I am seeing this beam is originating from me, and with that I am seeing the world. Exactly the same thing, the consciousness idea we have about our Atma or about our consciousness, it is exactly the same. You try to visualize. We think that this Atma is limited by my body-mind personality. And with that I am functioning, with that I am seeing, and it is originating only in me. And my Atma is different from his Atma, is different from her Atma. It is all different Atmas, which our Shastras repeatedly say, no, 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 no. All the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, everywhere they say that Atma is one. It is even calling it one is wrong. It is transcendental. Because the whole world appears in it. The world which has got this one, two, many, etc., they appear in this Atma. Now, this mirror, if we understand that the real beam is coming, the same light is coming and reflected by thousands of mirrors, then that is the understanding of the soul. That it is the same consciousness which is manifest through the different bodies, and they take with the association of the body, they appear to be different, they appear to be fragmented. Truly speaking, it is one and the same. Our Shastras give the example of the waves. One sun is reflected by so many waves, it is reflected by that. Is the sun many, or sun is only one? The reflection, when a wave goes, the reflection, corresponding reflection also goes. In this case, when the mirror breaks, the mirror is no longer there, mirror breaks, then the corresponding reflected beam goes. That is the death of us. So what do is we try to turn this mirror towards the original light. If you turn the mirror towards the original light coming from the top, then when it is looking at the original light, what happens? There is no reflected beam anymore anywhere showing anything else. This light gets merged with the original light. That is what happens in Samadhi. They come to know that this Atma is not limited by the body, mind, personality. It is merged in the single transcendental consciousness. It gets merged there. So it is this fragmented vision which gives us a wrong idea about our soul. Now our Viveka Buddhi will always remind us of that and tell us that this is the truth, that fragmented vision is not the truth, but unified vision, that oneness is the truth. In Bhagavad Gita it says that Sarva bhuteshu yenaikam bhavam avyayam ikshate abhivaktam vibhakteshu tad jnanam viddhi satvikam. Sarva bhuteshu yenaikam bhavam avyayam ikshate abhivaktam vibhakteshu tad jnanam viddhi satvikam. That knowledge is called Sattvika knowledge. Which knowledge is called Sattvika knowledge? Sarva bhuteshu yena ekam avyayam bhavam ikshate. Ikshate means it's an inner vision. It is not seeing with the eyes. It's not external vision. It's an inner vision. Ekam avyayam bhavam ikshate. One who sees in everything the one unchanging truth. Sarva bhuteshu yena ekam avyayam bhavam ikshate. Unchanging, avyayam, ekam, one, truth, one, he sees. Abhivaktam vibhakteshu, he sees the one in the divided appearance of the world. He sees that one consciousness alone, one Atma alone. Tad jnanam viddhi satvikam. That knowledge is called Sattvika knowledge. So, to keep our mind and intelligence on this unified vision, to always find out the unity in diversity, to find out that one truth in the multiply manifest world, we have to have the Sattvika guna. If we cultivate the Sattvika guna, then only this knowledge will become common to us, will become natural to us. So for that we have to take to all the whatever increases our Sattvika guna. We talk about Sattvika ahara. Now this ahara is not just taking with the mouth. Ahara means all the inputs through all our 5 indriyas, whatever input we take, they are the aharas. All the inputs are aharas. If we change those inputs into Sattvika input, for example, the food has to be Sattvik. What food? It is given in 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You can see. Rasya snigdha sthira hridya ahara sattvika priyaha. Whatever we are seeing with the eyes, that is the ahara for the eyes, through the eyes. Suppose we see the visions which agitates our mind, fragments our mind, excites our mind, then that is not Sattvika. Because that is not creating the unified vision. So, whatever vision, auspicious vision, they are all will always tell us about although it is all fragmented, but they are all appearing on the same consciousness, in the same soul. Similarly, the sounds we hear, we have to listen to such sounds which will remind us of this unified, uniform identity, this uniform truth. If we listen to exciting music, exciting things, always quarrels and all kinds of fragmented, which will make our mind fragmented, then they are not Sattvika. So we have to constantly be alert to change all our aharas into Sattvika. In Chandogya Upanishad, Narada Sanat Kumara Samvada, Narada, when he meets Sanat Kumara, he asks Sanat Kumara to give him Upadesha, give me advice about knowledge. So naturally Sanat Kumara asks that, what do you know, you tell me first, then only I can tell you. So Narada tells him what he knows. In that it is interesting to read. Everything in the world he knew. All the Shastras, including black magic also is mentioned there. Everything. All the Vedas, all the Vedangas, all kinds of yagas, yajnas, what not, and even including the astrology and black magic, everything is mentioned, that everything he knew. But he said that mantravidha evasmi natu atmavid. He says that, but I know only the mantras. That means I have studied everything, all these shastras, I have studied the mantras. I am a mantravid, but natu atmavid. I don't know the truth. I don't know who am I. I don't know my Atma. Tarati shokam atmavid. How do you say that you don't know your Atma? Narada himself confesses that because I know an Atmavid will be beyond shoka. He will never get depressed. He will always be in prasada. He will be prasanna. But I am not able to overcome the shoka. So I am not an Atmavid. Although I know the Vedas, I know the Upanishads, everything I know, but I have not known the self. So you please tell me about the self. In that, Sanat Kumara is saying that how to proceed in this sadhana. In that he says, Ahara shuddhau sattva shuddhihi, sattva shuddhau dhruva smritihi, smriti lambhe sarva granthinam vipramokshaha. He says, Ahara shuddhau sattva shuddhihi. By our being will get purified when we purify our ahara. It's not just the ahara through the mouth, as I said. All the inputs we have to be careful about. When we purify our ahara, then our being gets purified. Because our being is made of this ahara. Not only the food we take, definitely the gross body is made of that, even the subtle part also is made of the food. But what about the other food which we are always taking through the eyes, through the ears? They are always building us inside. Whatever pictures we are seeing in the film, in the TV, in the computer, they are all creating our mind, our emotions. They all have to be purified. Otherwise, where from will purity dawn? If we hear some pure words and go back and again expose ourselves to all kinds of impure things, then the purity will not come to us at all. Ahara shuddhau sattva shuddhi. To have our being purified, we have to purify our all kinds of inputs. Sattva shuddhau dhruva smritihi. The constant remembrance of the Lord, which we were talking about, that remembrance. The constant dhruva smriti means, dhruva means constant. Smriti means the memory, the remembrance of the Lord will come when the being becomes purified. For a pure mind, pure emotion, pure intelligence, pure body, that we don't have to struggle anymore for the remembrance of the truth, remembrance of the Lord. That is why he says, the last thing is, Smriti lambhe sarva granthinam vipramokshaha. Vipramokshaha. V means Vishesha Rupena, pra means Prakishta Rupena, mokshaha. Sarva granthinam, all the knots, as we started with our shloka, vidyate hridaya granthihi chidyante sarva samshayaha shiyante chasya karmani. In Upanishad it is tasmin drishte paravare. Here it is drishte atmani ishvare, something like that. So, sarva granthinam vipramokshaha. All the knots of the heart, they get broken. Vipramoksha. V means Vishesha Rupena, the knots in various aspects of our life, aspects of our emotion. Each will be opened, untied. And pramoksha means Prakishta Rupena means will be untied very well, that you will not again create the knot. So it is all a sadhana of purity. Purity finally means desirelessness and nothing else. It is only desirelessness. Whatever we do, the Upanishads also may start with various models of soul, model of Brahman, the concept of Brahman and all. But when we go towards the end, they only say, Yada sarve pravidyante hridayasyeha granthayaha, or Yada sarve pramuchyante kamayasya hridishritaha athamatyo amrito bhavati atra brahma samashnute. When all the desires of the heart are removed, they are all cleared, then here itself, in this body, man becomes immortal. He realizes the immortality. So everywhere it is ultimately the desirelessness. Now here, to complete our sadhana through the Triguna Tattva, is that even the Satwaguna, which gives rise to the Viveka Buddhi and which helps us to know the Lord, which takes us closest to the Lord, that Satwaguna also binds. Bhagavad Gita says, Sukha Sangena Badnati Jnana Sangena Chanagha. That Satwaguna which we use to get over the Tamoguna bondage and Rajoguna bondage, that Satwaguna also is binding in nature. Sukha Sangena Badnati Jnana Sangena Chanagha. So it is not binding us with the other kind of sensory pleasure or nidra, alasya, etc., the idleness, etc. But it is binding us with the clinging to the peaceful sukha that we have through the Satwaguna. And it binds us to the knowledge. Always we are given to the knowledge, and whenever we get more and more knowledge, we get a sukha corresponding to that. That becomes a bondage, because constantly we would like to be in Satwaguna only. We will try to always, if we read, if we meditate, if we go on doing that, we will cling to that. We will not reach the liberated position, the Shuddha Sattva, which comes when the bondage of the Satwaguna also is removed. So how to attain that? How to get rid of the Satwaguna bondage? That Bhagavata states very clearly in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He says in the 11th skandha, 25th chapter, 34, 35, 36, etc. Nissango mam bhajed vidvan apramatto jitendriyaha rajastamaschabhijayet sattvasam sevaya munihi. He says that by the constant practice of Satwaguna, he overcomes the Rajoguna and the Tamoguna. Then Sattvam chabhijayet yukto nairapekshena shantadhihi sampadyate gunairmukto jivo jivam vihayamam. He says that Satwaguna bondage also has to be overcome. How to do that? He says that that is overcome by nirapeksha, non-expectation. It is the same as surrender or saranagati. Non-expectation. We have to think about it very well. Not expecting anything from anywhere, from anybody, any time in the world. Not expecting anything from anybody, anywhere, any time. If something happens, God is all-knowing, God is all-pervading, God is all-doing. So if I lose my relatives, if I lose my property, if I lose my job, has it not been done by God Himself? So why should there be if I am a devotee, why should there be any reluctance to accept it? So there should not be any reluctance at all. There should not be any expectation at all. That is the ultimate. And through that nirapekshata, we overcome the Satwaguna also. Because suppose you want to study, only read the Shastras, only remain in meditation, but something happens which needs my attention, I have to do that work. I should be able to do that also. Leaving my Shastric studies, leaving my meditation, I should be equally at ease in doing all those things also. So this nirapekshata is given the highest position in our Shastras, non-expectation. Bhagavatam says, nirapeksham munim shantam nirvairam samadarshanam anuvrajamyaham nityam puyeyetyanghirenubhihi. He says that a muni, a thoughtful person who is nirapeksha, shanta, Nirvaira and Samadarshana. Actually, all these come from the Nirapekshata itself. Who does not expect from anywhere, will he always not be Shanta, peaceful? Because all our tension, stress comes from expectation. You try in your own mind. Whenever there is a stress, there is an expectation. Either a fear or an expectation. Both are expectation. You remove that expectation, make the mind ready to accept anything, immediately the stress will go, the strain will go, everything. That readiness to accept any situation, no stress will be there in the mind at all. He is nirvairam, that means he does not have any enemy. It is not so. Nirvairam means in his mind he does not have enmity. There could be enemies outside, but he does not consider them to be enemy. His mind is free of the vairavhava, of enmity. Samadarshanam, who sees everything with the samatva, that as the Bhagavad Gita, the entire yoga is samatva yoga. The success, failure, sukha, dukkha, friend, enemy, everything he takes with non-expectation. That itself is samadarshana. Now what is the Lord saying? He says that I walk behind that devotee. If a devotee is like this, who is a nirapeksha, who does not expect anything from anywhere, I follow that devotee. Why? Puyeye tyangri renubhi, so that I can purify myself by taking his padaraja, by taking the dust of his feet. Are you able to follow? The God is saying that I purify myself with the dust of the feet of that devotee. So it is not composed by God, it is composed by some saint. And what is he saying? This is composed by Vyasadeva. What does he mean by that? He is giving this nirapekshata the highest position in life. That when we don't expect anything from anywhere, anytime in the world, there cannot be any higher position. Such a person will not be even looking for moksha, so-called moksha, liberation, or even self-realization. Whatever be the self-realization, he will not be worried about it. Whether he is a self-realized or not, also he will not think. He is satisfied, he is fulfilled forever. Na parameshtham, na mahendradhishnyam, na sarvabhaumam, na rasadhipatyam, na yoga siddhir apunarbhavam va, mayarpitatmechati madvinanyata. He says that he does not want the Brahmaloka or the Swargarajya, Mahendradhishyam, or the whole emperorship of the world, even of the Patala Rajya, Rasadhipatyam. He does not look for any yoga siddhi or moksha, punarbhavam va, mayarpita atmechati madvinanyata. One who has given himself to me, whose mind is always given to my thought, he does not expect anything from anywhere at all. Even moksha he does not expect. Sampurnam jagadevanandanavanam sarvepi kalpadrumaha gangam vari samastavari nivaha punya samasta kriyaha vacha prakrita samskrita shrutishido Varanasi medini sarvavasthitirasya vastu vishaya drishti parabrahmani. Sarvavasthitirasya vastu vishaya drishti parabrahmani.